How we doing, Coffee Club? This is John. This is an absolute exclusive video just for you folks. Thank you for the support here, on YouTube. I'm drinking instant coffee this morning. This mug is actually the Christmas Inn from Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, if you're familiar with that area. It's a beautiful hotel, kind of has a castle look. It's one of our favorite places to stay when we're down that way. But I was sitting here drinking coffee this morning, instant, and I'm sitting here thinking, man, that's a great prep. That's a morale booster during SHTF, right? When I say SHTF on the channel, that's a broad term, though. That can be total Mad Max. The country is collapsed, but that can also mean, look, you got a snowstorm and power's out for 4 days. That's an SHTF for a lot of people, not preppers. You should be able to handle 4 days, right? But the non-preppers, after a couple of days, 3 days, they're in panic mode. They don't know what to do. So I consider that SHTF as well. I know it's totally different than an EMP or something, but anyway, as I'm sitting here enjoying my coffee this morning, and I'm sitting down to make a video for the Coffee Club, again, an exclusive video. Um, I'm thinking about other things that would be morale boosters during SHTF and how they're not talked about all that much. I mean, people hit on them here and there, myself included, but we don't really get into it all that much. It's kind of a side note deal because we're talking about, stacking it to the rafters. We're talking about stacking ammo. We're talking about it's kind of like the analogy. Sometimes you can't appreciate everything, like the entire forest, because you're always concentrating on this set of trees or this set of trees, and it's a big picture thing. And I don't know if you call them creature comforts or if it has something to do with nostalgia, maybe. But these are the trees on the very outside of the forest that nobody really pays attention to. Okay, and whether the power's out for a week or the power's out for a year, you're looking at tough times. I mean, we're in a digital world, like it or not, and it's a very tough situation to be in, okay? So with that in mind, I'm going to go down a list. Feel free to add your own. There are tons, right? But coffee is the number one for me. All right, coffee all day long. I feel like I've got to have it. Physically, I probably don't, but I feel like I have to have it in the morning before I'm able to function properly. And once I get so much of it in me, I'm ready to rock like I am right now. Some people are this way. People that don't drink coffee, first of all, you're loco. Second of all, they have no idea what I'm talking about, but you just have to have that fix in the morning. And sometimes during the day, sometimes in the evening, sometimes when it's cold outside, right? For other people, it's candy, especially your kiddos out there. But look, some adults like their fancy candies and stuff. As a prep, fancy box of candy is not going to get you a long way, but there are other ways to do it. Your hard candies and stuff will last a very long time. Tobacco. Some people like their tobacco. I'll smoke a Churchill. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got nothing against it, but it's not one of those deals where I wake up and I'm like, hand me my cigars, son. It's hand me my coffee, son. I can do without tobacco if need be. For me, that's more of a sit down in the evenings, out on the deck or out in the yard, and just contemplate things. You know what I mean? I like to think about things. Liquor. I mean, straight up, liquor. Some of it can be used, practically to sanitize and stuff like that. But by and large, people just enjoy to drink liquor. I mean, they like their liquor and whiskey and all this stuff. And having that kind of stuff, think about it. You'll see this in a lot of movies and TV shows, but it's realistic, okay? So think about what our soldiers see during a time of war and think about where most of them end up when they're on leave. because the whole idea of being on leave is getting away from their own personal SHTF for a little while, is it not? You get a few days break between fighting in a war. What are you going to do? Maybe you sleep, maybe you go back and you try and visit family if they're nearby, but most soldiers are going to go, they're going to seek out pretty women straight up, and they're going to seek out their liquor and their tobacco and stuff like this because it's an escape. Mentally, at least, it's an escape. Now, look, I'm not encouraging you start drinking if you're not drinking already. I'm just telling you the way it is. And this one is hardly ever included, and maybe I'm biased on this because I like them, but books and magazines. Books and magazines, a lot of people maybe enjoy reading, and they're very particular, and they like what they like book-wise and stuff like this. And, I can see where books and magazines, but especially books, it's more of a connection, like a nostalgic connection. You can pick up a book that you remember maybe from your early 20s, and now you're 40 or 50, and it just takes you back a little bit. But again, there are plenty of other things. But the point I'm trying to make, Coffee Club, is mental. The mental preparedness, the level of mental prepping that you're going to have to be at during a really tough long-term SHTF is no joke. Okay, because again, a snowstorm for 3 or 4 days, the family may panic a little bit, but as a prepper, you should be okay. You should be just fine. But 3 or 4 years, that will wear you down. That will wear the best of people down mentally, okay? And when you're thinking about this, it's very important because I saw this during the beginning and the mid stages of the pandemic. I mean, later on too, but my kids. If you have kids, consider not only the impact of an SHTF, because the pandemic honestly was a big SHTF. It was a big change in living and the way things worked and everything. It was a historical SHTF, and it'll be looked back on. Now you can call it a scamdemic, and I totally get it, but I started to notice in my own kids, they were becoming less social. They didn't like, I could tell it was mentally, it was beating them down, would be the way to put it. And I got some pretty strong kids mentally, but it started to wear them down because our schools went all virtual. They didn't like the way it was set up. I forget what they used, but it's through Google, but it was the equivalent of Skype, but it was the entire classroom, and they just hated it. They hated not being there in person to socialize with their friends. They hated the whole vibe, and I did too, quite frankly, of going into stores and being harassed at the door to mask up and having people walking around with face shields. And you may still have some of that. I don't know, but it was rampant during the pandemic. And mentally, this started to affect my kids. And what I did during that time, I've mentioned this again briefly here and there, but what we did during that time, and they still have them, is I set my kids down. I handed them a small bag. Now, it's not like a full bug out bag, pack out bag, or whatever. This one's a small one. And I said, throw some stuff in there. And the way I spun it was, in case the power would ever go out or we would have to go down into the basement, tornado or something, pack a few things in here that you can live without right now, but will come in handy. And this was actually fun because my kids went in totally different directions. My daughter, she grabbed a book. I think she grabbed one of her favorite plushes. She's grabbing journals and pens and things like this. She grabbed a flashlight, to her credit. My son, who is the tech guy around the Ponderosa here. My daughter knows what she's doing, but my son's heavy into it. We have to kind of limit how much he plays and stuff. The first thing he grabbed was a backup, one of the older model Game Boys, and he's throwing batteries in there. And he grabbed a plush, and he's grabbing some action figures. And I don't think he grabbed a flashlight or anything like that. I actually put a chem light, a glow stick in there for him, but, I highly recommend you do that if you have kids. You know, sit down. Number one, you can find out where they're at in terms of prepping, and you can explain, okay, maybe this is not a great choice. This is a great choice. Maybe put some hard candy in there and stuff like this. But number two, during an SHTF, you're going to have these, and you can just tell your kids, go grab your bags. Go grab them. We have to leave, or go grab them. We need to go to the middle of the room, middle room in the house, something like this. Go grab them. The power might go out. It's just something to consider. And that's the message this morning. It's not the most important thing as a prepper, so it's often overlooked. It's not as important as a water catchment system, okay? It's not. But mentally, especially if you have kids, it's very important. You know, kids during a really bad situation, if they're able to open up a pack and they've got a plush in there, one of their semi-favorite plushes, and they've got some hard candy in there, they're doing great. Um, at the same time, you know, for adults, maybe it's not your favorite tobacco or your favorite brand of whiskey, but if you've got that set aside, you really don't need to put it in a pack as an adult. Just know where it's at. If you've got that, it's a morale booster. But anyway, Coffee Club, thank you very much for the support. These are going to drop a few days a week now that I have more time outside of writing. And I do truly appreciate the support outside of just the thumbs up and the subscribes and stuff like that. Until next time, take care and God bless.